If you've always wanted to know all about coffee, how it's made, how it should taste, the best beans to buy, you need to hear about Liberty Beans Coffee Company in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Hi, Hilary Ettenson from Keller Williams, and I am here with Jim Morton with Liberty Beans Coffee Company in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Jim, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much for being here at our roastery. Appreciate
Absolutely. We are going to talk coffee, all about it, the best beans, the ways to brew it, everything you didn't know but actually wanted to know about coffee. So
I've gone way down the rabbit hole, so I'm ready. I'll bore you to death.
We're ready to be bored. So first off, tell me the story about the chef and the chemist. How you got started?
Well, my wife and I are both high school teachers. I actually am a chef, culinary arts background, so that's the chef part of it. And my wife is a PhD scientist, and that's where the chef and the chemist concept came from. And the best part about that is roasting coffee is the perfect combination of culinary arts and science. Coffee from green raw coffee to finished product is about 16 minutes.
Wait, only 16?
Only 16 minutes.
You think of it as being like hours of roasting, and it's literally 16 minutes?
Well, there's hours and hours of trial and error, but when we get it right, it's 16 minutes.
The finished product.
That's right. Yeah. So, but a lot of science happens in that 16 minutes. So that's where I rely on the brains of the operation, my wife. Yeah, Diane.
So what was the first time, or when was the first time you took a sip of coffee and it was, ooh, this is like, that really turned you on to good quality coffee?
Probably the best cup of coffee I had was,
besides your own,
27 years ago on our honeymoon in Jamaica. So I'm a black coffee drinker. And, it's kind of funny because when my wife and I are tasting coffee, by the way, we're snobs, it's cupping coffee. We don't taste coffee, we cup it.
Sorry.
So when we're cupping coffee,
I'm learning as well.
That's right. Diane will say what she likes or doesn't like, but I think with my culinary background and, developing my palate, are able to pick out different nuances in the coffee. And so probably 27 years ago, I had that cup of coffee in Jamaica, which I've never had something so good since. Well, since we've had some of ours.
But it kind of ruined you to
so now
some of the places we won't name.
Yeah, so now you know what great coffee should taste like. And, when we decided to start the company, I bought a 1 pound roaster and just bought some green coffee and started experimenting. And what I would do is I watched tons of videos online, and I bought the best books I could find, and I would roast a single origin and taste it and write down my tasting notes. Mm-hmm. Then I would look it up in these encyclopedias on coffee and say, oh, yeah, I really nailed that.
It's kind of like if you go to a winery and you're like, oh, I'm tasting fresh berries, and they're like, yes, that is correct.
That's right, yeah. So that kind of got me to understand that I could do this, and then we started giving the coffee away to see what people thought, and they're like, yeah, you have to open up a roastery. So
what does it mean that it says, dark roast versus light roast?
Well, I mean, quite simply, the level of the roast is tied to the temperature at which we drop the beans out of the roaster. So the beans are in a roaster and they're tumbling away in a roaster, and we as roasters are monitoring the rate of rise of those beans. So over the course of a minute, how many degrees did the beans rise in the roaster? And then as we get towards the end of the roast, we're going to hear something called first crack. And first crack is the heat is building so much pressure up in the beans that they actually crack, okay? And it sounds like if you add milk to your Rice Krispies in the morning,
right,
you can physically hear the pop, 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 pop in the roaster.
It's kind of like when you put the popcorn in the microwave. It's like you're waiting for that first.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so that's a signal to us that the beans are really now going, their chemical compounds are changing to flavonoids, and now it's really starting to develop its character. Okay. So now we really have to pay attention from that first crack. How much longer are we going to take it into the roast? And if we take it to a dark roast, it means we took it to, well, it really depends on your roaster. For my roaster, 424 degrees for that bean would be a dark roast for me.
Okay.
Now keep in mind that as a specialty roaster, we buy, let's just say, expensive Arabica beans. So we could talk about the varieties of beans. So I don't want to over roast the beans so that all you taste is roast coffee flavor.
Right.
We want you to taste the nuance and the origin that those beans came from.
Otherwise, why have all different kinds?
Or why do it?
Yeah.
Or why do it? So the easiest way to explain it is starting at the dark end. The other reason why you don't want to go too far is all coffee has a bit of acidity in it.
Right.
If you roast it too far, that acidity becomes bitterness, and you get that upset stomach when you drink it sometimes.
So you shouldn't get a stomach ache from coffee.
You should not get a stomach. Well, from good coffee, you should not get a stomach ache.
Okay.
I so many of our customers say to us that, they used to only be able to have half a cup or a cup a day because it would bother their stomach. And with our coffee, because we don't let it, we don't let that acidity get out of control, and we're buying higher quality beans, really you're not going to have that problem.
So tell me about, the high quality beans. Is there a specific country or even a region in a country that is, okay, that's where you want to be getting your beans from?
Sure. Well, this could be a long story, but I'll try and make it short. There are two main varieties of coffee grown in the world.
Okay.
Arabica and Robusta. Now Robusta, so all coffee is grown on mountainsides.
Yes.
Because it needs warm days and cool nights. That's why there's not coffee really grown in the U.S. except for Hawaii, and they're experimenting in California. You may be able to get some California beans, but they're very expensive right now.
You need a very specific climate.
You need a very specific climate. And so, unfortunately, most of the coffee in the world are grown in poorer countries. And we could talk about how we're trying to help them out in a minute. But so we only buy high altitude Arabica beans. Interestingly, the largest coffee producer in the world is Brazil. Now we have beans here in our roastery from Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, Peru, all over Central America and Africa. Of course, I mentioned the beans from Kenya, Indonesia, Sumatra. We have Sumatra in-house as well.
Is Costa Rica?
Costa Rica is a big coffee producer. Colombia and Costa Rica, to me, are a little bit higher in acidity. So when I'm talking about developing a blend, so I would take that Brazil and I'd roast, let's say, a certain Colombian bean and say, well, it has a little bit of acidity to it and maybe some cocoa powderness to it. And then I roast, let's say, a single large in Peru. And I think, wow, that's got some real depth of chocolate flavor and just touch of citrus. So now we marry those three. We play with the percentages of how much of each bean we add to a 15-pound batch.
Okay.
And then we roast it. And now when we roast it, we have a software program that we hook up to our roaster that can track the roast for us. And again, what we're looking for is to control the rate of rise of the beans. And so if I roast it and I have that, I can print out that roast, and when I taste it, when I cup that coffee,
you almost slipped.
Yeah, that's right. And we nailed that profile. Now I have that profile, and I can try and repeat it on that roaster. So we're always offering consistent product to our customers.
But it's never going to be the same twice. Like you couldn't.
It's not automated. No.
It's not like you set up the machine. Okay, now duplicate that last batch.
No, we're constantly controlling airflow and gas pressure, basically temperature on the roaster to control that rate of rise. If we go too slow, the coffee will have a dull baked flavor, and we actually call that roast baked. We ruined it, we baked it. If we go too fast, we can scorch it and kind of blow right through where those flavonoids are going to be developed, and we don't develop the right amount of flavor in the coffee. So it could be underdeveloped, overdeveloped. We're constantly striving
for that sweet
spot, and we're constantly cupping the coffee. Even when we nail a roast, probably every other roast of that blend, I'm cupping to make sure that we're consistent on the same page with it.
Okay. And this might sound a little silly, but what is fair trade? You see a lot of it'll be like maybe just one container, it'll say fair trade.
Right.
What is that saying to the consumer?
So some people have a misconception about fair trade. What fair trade means is that the coffee importer, or sometimes the roastery if they're buying direct, has agreed to pay a certain percentage of money over the market price of that coffee. Now, these coffee producers, remember that most of the coffee is grown in economically challenged communities. So there may be many coffee growers that send all their coffee to one, it's called a washing station, where they process the coffee. So the importer may have a fair trade agreement with that washing station. So all the coffee bought through that washing station is going to get that fair trade price.
Right.
What we as a community are trying to do, in conjunction with a lot of other things, is make sure that additional money is getting to those individual farmers.
Right.
And
they're the ones really doing this hard work of growing the product.
Now, there are many coffee importers who work hand in hand with helping these communities not only improve their coffee growing and their coffee producing, but what they're doing in the community. We use several importers here at our roastery, and they give back to these communities to build a community center, to build a school, to hire teachers. It's not just about it used to be just about trying to get the lowest price on that green coffee. But we realize that with climate change and economic conditions in these countries, that we as an industry need to do more to help them. We rely on them. We can't grow coffee in the U.S. We're relying on them.
Exactly. If they suddenly say, sorry, you're on your own, especially in the U.S., we have a problem.
Yeah, let me give you an example. We have a blend called Amber Waves, which is right here.
Okay.
Now, this is gourmet beans bought from Guatemala and Brazil, women-owned coffee farms. Now, interestingly, women do about 80% of the work on coffee farms.
Wait, seriously?
About 80% of the work's done by women. However, they only own, depending on what region of the world you're talking about, maybe 10 to 15% of the farms are actually owned by women. So for this blend,
they're doing all the work, but
not they're trying to get equity in it. But again, you're dealing with a lot of different countries that have their own norms, and so. But what can we do to help that process along? Well, we are buying beans only from women-owned coffee farms for that blend. So that's our way to try and support that.
Nice, I love that. So, little question here. Don't get mad at me. How much do you shame someone for putting milk and sugar in their coffee?
Well, you could probably ask my wife that. Yeah, I don't shame. I mean, listen.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I sometimes I'll joke with them that they don't really know what coffee tastes like. They're basically making a dessert with milk and sugar and coffee. But
you have the chef background. Is it kind of like if you go to a restaurant and you put salt
ketchup on a steak?
Or like before you even tasted that you're salting your food, that's like the insult to the chef?
Yeah, no, I think there can be some pretentiousness around coffee, and I'm really not that way. Listen, as long as you enjoy a good cup of coffee from a great roaster who takes their time and patience with the coffee and producing a great product, put your milk and sugar in it, and if you like, it's fine with me.
That's how you like it.
Yeah.
Now, there's so many different ways to make coffee at home. You have your French press and your aerator and the American drip and all these different contraptions that every article comes out every year, the 10 best coffee makers. And is there really a difference in terms of what it's going to do to the coffee? Who should buy this type of coffee maker versus?
So, yeah, short answer is yes.
Short answer, you're like, well, we could talk about that for an hour.
We could.
But
the long answer is your cup is really about the extraction. So how much flavor did you get out of that ground coffee that you just either poured hot water over or had your machine pour hot water over?
Okay.
So I would say 7 to 10 days is probably the sweet spot for drinking that coffee off roast, which if you order from a coffee roaster online, hopefully that's when you get it from us. We don't keep more than a 5-day supply of roasted coffee on hand. So you're always going to get fresh coffee from us. And it's always going to hit that sweet spot 7 to 10 days out of my roaster.
So unless you're having a number of cups a day, you ideally shouldn't have a huge supply at home ready to go because it's not going to be
Well, that brings me to my next point. We should all be buying whole bean coffee.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've heard the benefits of whole beans versus its
That's
grounds.
the key. So ground coffee, again, best 7 to 10 days off roast. You could keep it for 2 to 3 months. I mean, a coffee snob won't, but and then so we were talking about, does the brewing technique affect flavor? And not necessarily if you have the grind correct. For instance, if you're using an immersion technique, such as a French press or an AeroPress.
So what would be, you were talking about that it's not so much about the actual machine, but more of how you're going to grind your beans.
It's about the quality of the coffee and the grind size of the beans, because it's all about extraction. So if you're going to use, for instance, a French press or an AeroPress, which is an immersion coffee brewing scenario where the water and the coffee are going to sit together for
sort of like
a certain number of minutes before you press it out, you want a coarser grind. Okay. Versus a little bit finer grind for coffee that maybe a pour over or coming out of a coffee maker that sits on your counter.
What do you use at home?
I use everything.
Everything?
I have,
to kind of test it out?
Yeah, because I want to know, I don't know what you're going to be drinking, what you're going to be brewing with. So I have hand grinders, I have commercial grinders, and I have a variety. I have several pour over systems. I actually have, I don't have it here with me, I wish I could show it to you. I have a hand crank espresso maker that I can make espresso, with your muscles.
My mom has still at home on the coffee table one of those, I don't know if it's cast iron, but it's this black and it with a hand crank. It looks almost kind of like a Jack in the Box type of a
with a drawer that pulls out with your ground coffee.
Didn't know what it was for years, but
there you go. You mentioned espresso. One thing that's interesting about espresso is some people think it's a particular bean. It's a brewing technique.
Oh.
Espresso is a brewing technique. So you can make espresso out of any of our coffees.
Oh,
Now we have an espresso.
I thought it was a particular, this is for what you use to make espresso.
We have an espresso blend, which is a darker roast, because the community at large kind of associates espresso with a dark, bold, rich coffee. My favorite coffee to make espresso with is our Freedom blend. This is a blend of Guatemala, Peru, and Brazil. The Guatemala is from Huey Tenango.
Say that 10 times fast.
And that's just a full-bodied, rich, full-flavored, chocolatey. Just love that coffee, and it's perfect for an espresso because it doesn't have any bitterness.
And then what type of a grind?
Fine as you can
like
get it.
Powder.
Like powder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you have a whole bunch of different labels, and I was reading on your website, you do a lot of partnerships, a lot of fundraisers with the community. Tell me more about that. Maybe some of the partnerships you've done, or what some of these different stickers mean.
Well, I'd like to start. This is one of our blends, one of our more popular blends. This is our 68W Dark Roast. Now, 68W is the call sign for Army Combat Medics, which Diane and our son is one. So this is in honor of all military and first responders and their families. We appreciate them so much. And we donate $1 per bag from every bag purchased to the USO. And this is 68W.
Oh, that's amazing.
And we do a lot of fundraisers. You can see all those bags on the back shelf. There's, we did Cherry Hill Knights football team. We did Rancocas Valley marching band. We have the 2 animal shelters running fundraisers right now. One in Quakertown, Pennsylvania called Last Chance Ranch, and one called the Animal Rescue Center down in Lindenwold. We did PVI soccer. We did a Cherry Hill PBA, a Police Benevolent Association fundraiser. This is one running right now. This is Haven. This is a community that empowers women veterans who are leaving the military to get back on their feet. They're running a fundraiser with us. This is the Last Chance Ranch. This is one we did with the Autism Society.
So, what are some of these stickers?
So those are all partnerships within the community. And then we do all kinds of private labels. So these are for wedding favors.
Oh, I love that.
So you know how people do the little bottles of wine or things like that on the table?
Or like the little wine stoppers that you have 10 of and you forget that you have them and they're in a drawer.
So how about the
You're
people...
actually going to use this.
Yeah, the next morning when they're hungover from enjoying their wedding as their morning coffee. You know, we also partnered with businesses in the area. We had a couple businesses buy, so that's a 4-ounce bag. They would buy 4-ounce bags of coffee, say 100 4-ounce bags, put their business, their website, their phone number on it. When they go on sales calls, whether they're selling windows or plumbing or electrical work, and the customer, may I leave this gift with you? So what other company's doing that? So when the husband and wife are comparing who to hire,
although you may have just given some people an idea.
Yeah, maybe, but if you're a business out there, give me a call, we'll hook you up. And the other thing we're doing at this time of year, we do specialty baskets. So we have a Valentine's Day basket here. This coffee was roasted by me and Cupid. It's mixed with love, and we have some gourmet milk and dark chocolates in our large 14-ounce Liberty Beans mug. We sell that online as well.
What is more romantic than waking up with your loved one and over a cup of coffee?
That's what I'm saying. Get them something they want this year, coffee and gourmet chocolate.
Yeah, something that they can use but love.
Yeah,
we could just elevate it.
We could put a card in there for you and ship it right to your loved one.
Yeah. Now, one thing I would love to touch on is, we all know I love to highlight Cherry Hill small businesses. This is located right in the heart of Cherry Hill. And what I love is Cherry Hill is a very developed area, very big business. You don't have small coffee shops like you do in some of the neighbors that we love. You know, we do, but it would be great. Why do you think that we don't have, it would be great to get this, amazing coffee. And I mean, I don't want to like knock some of the big coffee places, but
there are a few local coffee shops that we will visit. I mean, us small coffee roasters are kind of a tight-knit community.
Mm-hmm.
I even participate in a program where once a year, I trade coffee with another roaster throughout the country. And one of our suppliers of coffee puts that together. So, we're out there to support each other. I think there's enough, I have a plentiful mindset. I think there's enough for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, people have asked me, are you guys going to open up a coffee shop? And it's on the radar, but not in 2022. We do have a goal to be in 10 retail outlets this year, major retail outlets. We were in 6 seasonal outlets this past summer, farmers markets in the area.
Okay. Well, tell it, where
they did a great job.
So coffee?
Russo's out in Tabernacle, Red Top right outside Medford.
But not Green Top?
So it was one or the other, and I hit Red Top first. and since she said yes, I said, okay, I'm not going to go next door. And Flying Feather in Morristown, you need to go to that little farm stand in Morristown.
Mm-hmm.
It's owned by the nicest woman, Christine, who was blind, and she's there every day working the store. And they sold more of our coffee this summer than any of the other farmers markets. Yeah,
really?
She loves it more. Yeah, you have to go there.
Okay, and what was it again?
That's Flying Feather.
Feather in Morristown. Yeah. Write it down.
And then we were in a couple of outlets down the shore this summer, and we planned on this is going to be the year for us to expand quite a bit.
Nice.
But we're always going to be here for you for any type of private labeling you need, any type of fundraiser. You can go on our website. We also we can build a dedicated web page for your fundraiser.
Okay.
So if you don't want to take orders, pencil and paper, we can create a web page where you can send your supporters and they can order a coffee online, and part of the proceeds will go right to your organization.
And tell everyone, where can they buy your coffee?
LibertyBeansCoffee.com. LibertyBeansCoffee.com. Yeah, for sure. All our products are online, and our fundraising information is online. There's a form you can fill out that'll come right to me if you're interested in fundraising. If you're interested in any type of private label coffee or wedding favors, we're here for you. My wife Diane does a great job with the labels.
If you're new to coffee, they want to go to your website, what would be the first one that you would tell them?
So the coffee we started the business with is our Liberty blend. It's our signature blend, probably still our top seller. Flavor notes of dark chocolate, caramel, caramelized sugar, graham cracker. It's a full body coffee, and it's a medium roast, so it's great for an everyday coffee. And that would be the one I start with. Our second most popular is our Freedom Blend.
Okay.
And then if you want to go for a darker roast, 68W, Dawn's Early Light, and the Amber Waves, which supports the women coffee growers. I love this coffee as well. This is a brighter coffee, so not the depth of chocolate, more on the brightness and the kind of the citrus and berry flavors.
Okay. Now, the last thing I'd love to...
And K-Cups.
K-Cups.
So,
Who doesn't love a K-Cup?
We had to do this from popular demand. So many people now want the convenience of the Keurig machine. So currently we have our K-Cups available in our Liberty Blend, our signature blend, which is a medium roast.
Okay. Now, the one thing I really want to ask about is, I love to focus on small businesses. How can we help out the community? That's kind of what all Park Bench is about. You guys are very involved in the community, paying it forward. Why? Tell them, why is that so important?
Yeah, I mean, we're both teachers. Our kids grew up here in Cherry Hill. They had a great life growing up here. We feel like we hit the lottery being born in America and growing up where we grew up. And of course, it only makes sense to give back. And not only do we, do the fundraisers, which helps the community, but organizations that do silent auctions will donate baskets to. And of course, we donate the $1 per bag to the USO. So we also work some events in the area, so fall festivals, spring festivals, anything that you need a unique vendor to come to, we're happy to help out.
I love that. I mean, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And as you can see, there is a bit of a theme, Americana, you see the flag in the back, the Liberty Blend, freedom. So I kind of love this.
Yeah, it's not a political statement. I feel like, in a divided country, the one thing we can come together on is we all deserve a great cup of coffee. So
you can all get together and have a cup of coffee.
That's right. There are darn few problems that can't be solved over a great cup of coffee. That's
I would agree
philosophy.
with that.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, Jim, thank you so much. This was an absolute
pleasure. Thank you so much.
Jim Morton, Liberty Beans Coffee Company in Cherry Hill. Thanks again. Visit the website, order a bag, contact him if you want to have him produce some coffee for an event, you want to partner with him, fundraiser.
Thank you so much.
I would love to see Liberty Beans in a whole bunch of stores pretty soon.
That's the plan.
Absolutely. It's Hilary Ettenson with Keller Williams. Thank you so much.